And we are still waiting here. And now we're not. Hey guys, how you going? So today on BKRsport, we are here for the final round of the regular season in regards to the NRL, and we're going to be tipping every single game this round. If you are tuning in post this live stream, we are currently doing a live stream right now. But if you're tuning in right after, we do have the timestamps down there in the description for you so that you know which game it's being spoken about at which time. Now, the way this is going to go, guys, I'm going to go through, obviously, all 8 games here, and we're going to be talking about every single one in depth for probably about 10 minutes or so, but the final 3 minutes is going to be talking to you guys in the chat where you can shoot through whatever questions you have, or you can let me know what scoreline prediction that you do have, and I'll obviously respond to those as best that I possibly can. But, guys, this week is just absolutely hectic. We have a lot to talk about. Obviously, the top 8 has not been locked in yet. The minor premiership has not been locked in yet. We haven't even locked in the top 4 yet. Literally everything besides the wooden spoon, sorry doggies, has been not locked in, which is really good. Haven't seen one of these in a long time in regards to the final round of the season, and gee whiz, I'm absolutely looking forward to this weekend. Oh my God, it's going to be absolutely hectic. Look, a lot of teams that you got when you look at these tips, guys. I just want to throw this one out there. When you see these tips here, do know that these tips actually probably do change once results do filter in over the weekend. For example, the Titans Warriors result may change because of the Raiders and Roosters result, or because of the Sharks and Storm result. You'll see games throughout the week that will already have meant that there's nothing to play for anymore, or it could mean that there still is something to play for. For example, the Titans game. They would only be playing to make the 8 if the Sharks and Raiders both lose to the Roosters and the Storm. So there's a lot of factors to take into account here. However, guys, let's go and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new around here. We're going to be streaming pretty much every single game this weekend, except for that Tigers game versus the Tigers versus Dogs, the final game of the season, because we're doing the All Blacks versus Wallabies game. But let's get into our tips, guys. And, obviously, I have put a poll in the chat, guys. Who do you think makes the top 8 out of the Canberra Raiders, Cronulla Sharks, and the Gold Coast Titans? I can tell you right now, it is very, very wide open. But let's get into the first game, which is the Canberra Raiders taking on the Sydney Roosters on Thursday night at 7:50 p.m. The Raiders are currently $2.15. The Roosters are $1.71. Pretty interesting that the Raiders are not favourites for this game, considering that the Raiders are obviously playing for a top 8 spot. But you've got to remember the Roosters are also playing for a top 4 spot here. So basically, the Roosters right now, going into the final game of the season, the Roosters are on 32 points. The Eels are on 32 points. And the Manly Seagulls are all on 32 points there. The Roosters, however, have a for and against of 117. The Eels have 143, and Seagulls have 224. So basically, if the Roosters are to win this game, they would need to rely on both Manly and the Eels to lose for them to get that 4th spot to play the Storm or Panthers in that first week. If the Roosters are to win and just one of those teams, they'll go above them. If one of those teams loses, they'll go to 5th position. There is so much interchangeable there. They can go from 4th to 5th to 6th. If they lose this game, obviously, they will be playing the Knights in the first round next week. Obviously, we move to the Raiders now. The Raiders are in 9th position. They're not in the 8 right now. However, if they win this game, they will jump above the Sharks. They are on 22 points. The Sharks are on 22 points, and the Titans are on 20 points. Now, the big thing to consider here, guys, is the Raiders for and against is just woeful. It really is. My 73, they would need to win relatively significantly, pretty significantly actually, by like 60 points to even try and scare the Sharks into having to actually beat the Storm by a significant amount. My 73 for the Raiders, mine's 47 for the Titans, and mine's 24 for the Sharks. So basically, the Sharks would just need to win, even if the Raiders win, and they'd go above them. So that's the key part to take into account here. Now, let's look at the team list here, guys. But there is also a chance of the Raiders falling to 10th with a loss here and the Titans to win. Alrighty, team list lineups. Charles Nicoll-Klokstad will make his first run-on start since returning from a neck injury, so he's actually going to be starting here today. Going into the fullback, Jordan Rapana will go to the wing to take over from Bailey Simonson, who has a groin strain. Joseph Tapine has suffered a knee injury, but he has been named to play. The only change in the pack is Iasoya Soliola coming in at lock and Ryan Sutton going to the bench. Jared Croker, he's battling an injury. We don't really know what's going on there. Roosters, on the other hand, Angus Crichton, big return here for the Roosters. He returns from suspension with Josh Morris, Warrior Hargraves, and Kieran also back in the team. Obviously, we have heard about Morris making his retirement plans. Lachlan Lamb is at halfback with Sam Walker on the bench. Fletcher Baker will miss a game after accepting a ban of 1 match for a crusher tackle. And Takiaho has avoided serious injury and will play, while fellow forward Egan Butcher has also been named Crichton's return pushes Butcher to the bench and Nafahu White to the reserves. So that is the two-team lineups there. Now, guys, this is going to be such a difficult game to read. Look, to be honest with you, man, it's difficult for me to obviously remove my bias because obviously I am a Titans fan. So no matter what I say here, people are going to say, you know what, you're talking shit. You're getting around the Roosters because you want your team to win. However, you go and have a look at this lineup. Let's go to the fullback role, obviously. Chancellor Clockstar going up against James Tedesco. I'm taking Tedesco there. I'm not a big fan of Hutchinson and Lamb, but I'm also not a big fan of Jack White and Matt Frawley in the halves. Jack White's not had a great year at all, and Frawley, he's only had a couple of games because usually it's been Sam Williams, but they've changed that around. I can't trust the Raiders. I can't trust the Raiders. The Raiders are a team this year that kind of just are all over the shop. That's why they're in this position right now. They're not in the 8, and they're not guaranteed for an 8, even if they win this game. They come into this game off the back of a win against the Warriors 28-16. Cool. Lost to Manly Seagulls 19-18 and were up 12-0 in that game before obviously fading away like they normally do, called the Faders for a reason. If they had won that game like normal, they would have actually been in the 8 and playing for a top 8 position here. They lost the Storm 26-16, pretty decent result there. Beat the Dragons 20-12, but also got beaten really well by the Knights 34-24, and that was when the Knights weren't playing a great deal well, to be honest with you. Yeah, look, they beat the Eels, the Sharks, and Manly. Manly obviously were without Schuster, Trebojevic, and Cherry Evans in that game, but the week before that, they got beaten 44-6 by the Titans and 22-20 by the Dragons. So, look, they're a really tough team to read. They just go through win spurts and then they go through lose spurts. And the Roosters, on the other hand, they're playing for a top 4 spot. They can put themselves into a position where they force the other teams to have a crack and finish off their season well. I'm tipping the Roosters here. I'm going to take them really close, though. I think that if anything, it's going to be a 2 to 4 point game here. I don't see either team winning this well. The Rays, I can't trust them. The Roosters, they're a quality team. I know they've just come off the back of a pretty significant loss to the Rabbitohs. However, that was the Rabbitohs who are a top 3 team. The Rays are not a top 3 team. Absolutely not. 54-12 to the Rabbitohs. But, the Roosters are still pretty good against pretty much everybody else who isn't one of those really top tier teams. And then obviously, the Rays, like I said, they're coming off a 28-16 victory over the Warriors. So I'm going to take the Roosters here by 4 points. Maybe even actually, no, you know what? I'm going to take them by 2 points. I think it's going to be a very close game to start us off with. And that'll obviously keep so much more to play for throughout the week for the top 4, because it will force other games to have to play for their top 4 positioning. For example, Manly versus the Cowboys and whatnot, which is probably going to be a bit of a bore fest. But, I'm looking forward to it. So I'm going to take the Chooksters here by 4. Let's go and have a look in the chat to see what you guys have to say. Claire Gray Sinclair says Roosters 28, Raiders 16. Ooh, there we go. A nice little 12-point victory there for the Roosters. Dasmay says Roosters 28-20. Reef says, I can see, no, that's got nothing to do with this game. Xavier Abraham says, every time I've tipped the Rays this year, they've lost. And this is what I'm saying. I can't trust them, man. I can't trust them. They're not actually favourites for this game. I thought they were going to be favourites for this game, but I just can't simply trust them. So, I take the Roosters here by 4. DLCF Gaming says, can't believe the Roosters coach got fined for speaking facts. Look, okay, I'm going to answer this one quickly because it's not really about the game, but I will say this. Obviously, Trent Robinson has been fined, I think it was $20,000 for his rant about the referees. Although it is correct of what he's saying, and what he's saying is absolute facts, by allowing a coach to come out and criticise referees like he did, even though it may be correct in our opinion, would then encourage fellow coaches to come out and just continuously slaughter referees for, ridiculous decisions in their opinion, right? So you've got to remember this is in your opinion. Now, although the NRL has done what's needed and dropped Harry Perenara, and it's been coming for a while, to be honest with you. The NRL has done that. They know kind of the situation, and they did that before. Well, they did that regardless of what Robinson was saying. So, although what he did was right, I think it was worth it. Then again, I'm not the one with $20,000. It wouldn't be worth it for me, $20,000, but for them, I guess it's worth it. However, I definitely understand him getting fined in that sense. Warren Shazza said, I reckon Raiders can win. I believe in them. They definitely can win. They definitely can win. I just don't see. I can't trust them. I cannot damn well trust them at all. Broccolo Weeb says, I'm a little more confident in Roosters' ability to win. Exactly right. A little bit more confident. But let's move into the next game here, guys. So obviously hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already and subscribe if you're new around here. Let's move into the next game of the weekend, which is a massive game as well. Friday night, 6 p.m. The Cronulla Sharks versus the Melbourne Storm, obviously. As you guys know, we'll be streaming that game at Seabar Super Stadium on the Gold Coast. Sharks paying $3.50 for this game. Storm paying $1.31. Got absolutely hounded by a few Sharks fans on recent streams for saying that the whole team of the Melbourne Storm was going to be rested, and there was no way that the Storm were going to play all their players. There's no way that there was going to be all these starters in the team. They're just going to take all their starters out because they don't care about the minor premiership. Well, you are incorrect. The Sharks, obviously, they're in 8th position. The Raiders are in 9th position. The Titans, obviously, in 10th position. With the Sharks being on 22, Raiders being on 22, and Titans being on 20. Minus 24 points differential is definitely in favour of the Sharkies because the Titans are minus 47 and Raiders minus 73. However, if the Raiders are to lose this game and the Sharks are to lose this game, it depends on the points differential that they lose by to the Storm in this game. That brings that Titans versus Warriors game on Sunday into question in regards to it's only a 23 points differential between the Titans and Sharks. If, say, the Sharks are to lose this game by 10 and say the Titans are to win their game 13 plus or by 14 or just 13 plus, the Titans would jump above them for and against wise, which would then knock the Sharks and the Raiders out. So the Sharks, if they lose, just need to, because they would have already known the Raiders' result too, mind you. The Raiders and Roosters' result would have already happened, right? So if the Sharks are to lose, they would need to not lose by a lot, basically, to make the Titans have to win by a significant amount. So depending on how much they lose by, if it's by 2 points, that would mean the Titans have to win by 22 points, which isn't exactly crazily out of the question. However, the Warriors are a bit of a bogey side for the Titans, so it does keep that into account. Now let's move over onto, by the way, if they do win this game, they will lock up their spot no matter what, unless they won by 2 points and the Raiders were to beat the Roosters by about 60, which is just simply not happening. We move over into the Melbourne Storm. Obviously, they're up there on 42 points with the Panthers. Now, they're coming in off a loss to the Eels, which was crazy, obviously. However, I did say it was coming because they haven't looked great in the last 6 weeks overall. So it was kind of coming there. A lot of Eels fans won't like to hear that. Eels played well, don't get me wrong, but it was a culmination of about 6 weeks worth of underperforming performances by the Storm that really just hit them hard during that Eels game. And obviously the Eels beat them earlier in the year. So, it is worrying there for the Storm. And I guess that's why they've had to play more players than they realistically wanted to, which does save the Raiders and Titans' hopes, because otherwise the Storm would have just played a whole bunch of randos. But yeah, look, the Storm are in first position with a 187 points differential. Panthers are in second with 356. If the Storm are to win, they lock up the minor premiership no matter what. It doesn't matter how much they win by, unless the Panthers were able to win by about 140, which I don't know if that's going to happen against the Eels there. If the Storm are to lose, then the Panthers would obviously have to beat the Parramatta Eels to jump into that number 1 position. Now let's move into the team lineups, because this is a big one for this game. For the Sharks, Matty Moylan will return to the starting side for the first time since round 15. Luke Metcalf moving to the bench. I really don't necessarily agree with that one. I think Luke Metcalf's been pretty good for them in recent weeks. Not exactly the greatest against the Broncos, but the Broncos were the ones who really lost themselves that game with old mate buddy, what was his name, Flegler, giving up 14 points. What was it, 8 points in his own back? I can't remember. But anyway, the point of the matter is that the Broncos, gee whiz, they really threw that game, unfortunately. But to move into the Storm, so basically literally the same lineup except for Matty Moylan coming in for Luke Metcalf. Moving to the Storm, Jesse Bromwich has been suspended for 1 game for a crusher tackle, and Josh Adakara will be missing round 25 with a hamstring injury, so there's no resting there. George Jennings will return from a knee injury on the wing, while Nelson Asafa Solomona is back at prop after returning from his hamstring. Tui Kamikamica, the big Dosoviti man, is the other starting prop, with Christian Welch being rested. Cameron Munster will actually get a rest, with Nika Hines going into the number 6 jersey, so you can't really complain a great deal about that. Dal Finnegan will return to the pack, which sees Harry Grant revert to the bench, and Brand Smith shifting from lock to starting hooker. So basically, that's pretty much, they've just chucked back in Finucane, which is actually making their team stronger, putting Brandon Smith into the hooker role, and Harry Grant coming off the bench, which is actually a very, very nice little change there for the Storm. Felix Kafusi and Kenny Bromwich are also being rested, with Chris Lewis and Aaron Penne coming in. Jordan Grant and Riley Jacks join the bench. So, big game here. Storm playing for the minor premiership, Sharks playing for a top 8 position. However, look, the Sharkies, they're not. They're not the greats. They're not the greats of Sharkies, and I know that Sharks fans aren't going to like that, but I just don't really care, to be honest with you. The Sharks haven't been great for a large part of the season. No one outside of the top 5 realistically has been great for part of this major part of the season, or 4 plus 6. Oh no, you take out the Eels and Roosters because the Eels have been pretty poor for quite some time, but they obviously get 2 wins against the Storm this season, and it makes them world beaters, despite the fact they got beaten by 28-0 against the Roosters. 40 points by the Rabbitohs, by 56-10 to the Manly Seagulls, but, whatever. But, we go back into last week, they only, they came out on top by 8 points over Broncos in a very unconvincing effort there by the Sharkies, to be completely honest with you. Storm obviously did lose that game 22-10 to the Eels. We go back and look at the Sharks. They beat the Tigers 50-20, still gave 20 points to the Tigers. Scored 50, fair enough, but that is the Tigers, who are obviously absolute dribblers at the moment. The Sharkies, they lost to the Knights 16-14. The week before that, they obviously lost 18-16 to the Warriors, which is not a great one there. You move back into the Manly game. They conceded 40 and lost 40-22. Still scored 22 points against Manly, which was pretty good, but obviously conceded 40. Scored 44 against the Bulldogs, but gave up 24 against the Dogs too, which is not something ideal at all there. And then obviously, lost 34-18 to the Raiders. So they're very similar in the sense to how the Raiders have been playing this year. Just haven't been fantastic overall, but do find themselves in a position that is actually pretty likely for them to get in, as long as if they lose, Titans lose, and Raiders lose, the Sharks will make the 8, right? So it's much more likely for them to get there than the other teams, especially even if they lose, they can still probably do it. However, I'm taking the Storm here. I'm actually going to take the Storm by I'm going to take them by 8. Wouldn't be surprised with bigger, wouldn't be surprised with smaller. It depends on what type of Sharks team does turn up here. It is at Seabuss Stadium on the Gold Coast, so I guarantee you that there'll be quite a few people getting around the Storm, considering that obviously the Gold Coast, they'll probably get there. The Titans fans will get there to support the Storm here. And look, I think that Storm lineup is still pretty strong, to be completely honest with you. I don't think it's a crazy Storm lineup, which is a bunch of heaps of people rested. Yes, there's some injuries. Yes, there's some people out, but I'm taking the Storm here, and I'll take them by about 8 points, and wouldn't be surprised if the Storm win by a lot more than that. Xander Abraham says, did you know that Tui Kamikamica used to play as centre when he used to play for the Eels in the reserve going back in his early days? I didn't know that. Gee whiz, Tui Kamikamica, the big Dozovidi man, playing in the centre role. Geez, very much like Siosifa Tarakai when he was playing for centre role for the Sharkies a couple of weeks back against the Raiders, and also somebody else, I can't remember. Justin Sutherland says, Storm easy money, 30-12. This is the score. Gee whiz, there we go. Ben McGann says, Storm to win 26-14. Reef Aniwa says, what happened in 2016, baby? I'm playing for Cronulla. When I'm older, we'll be the best. Cool story. That's great. But this is also 5 years later than 2016. So it's all good to, talk about 2016, but we're also 5 years out of 2016. And I tell you what, if I go back through their team lineup here, I don't know if there's a single player who was in their team in 2016. Maybe, I don't think there was a single player in this team that was there in 2016, unless I am mistaken there. So yeah, I'm not too sure what we're referring to 5 years ago. Creamer says, Sharks will be floating on. They're back this week. Well, there you go. I hope so. As a Titans fan, I do hope so. Oscar Berg says, when was the last time Storm lost back-to-back realistically? Good call as well. I don't think they've lost back-to-back in a few years, but I could be wrong. But this is another big thing, is that this is why Craig Bellamy is also playing pretty much a full team here, pretty much a full team as per he possibly can, because there's some injuries and suspensions. But it's because, look, 2 rounds, and like they lost to the Eels. That was the worst possible thing for the Sharks. If the Storm win against the Eels, the minor premiership is locked up. They rest everyone. You know what I'm saying? Like they take everyone out. They take Jerome Hughes out. They take Nico Hines out. They take Pappenhausen out. They take bloody Brandon Smith out. They may chuck Harry Grant in for some extra minutes, but they take everyone out, right? Them losing to the Eels was just horrific for Sharks fans and realistically for Storm fans, because they obviously start to not believe again, but they will still be there come finals time. Don't you worry about that. One loss doesn't mean shit, but it just shows how good this team is, that one loss has just gone in the mind of every single person on the planet in regards to this team. Isaac says Storm lost back-to-back at the beginning of the season against the Panthers and Eels. Yes, but that Eels game was torrential conditions. I don't look at that one too much. I look at the most recent Eels game against them, but I don't look at that game too much. But that's still technically right that they lost back-to-back at the beginning of this year. However, go back before that, it's probably quite some time outside of that. But look, I'm taking the Storm here by 8. Wouldn't be surprised if the Storm win by more. Wouldn't be surprised if the Sharks get a win here. It all depends on that Raiders versus Roosters game the night beforehand. If the Roosters are to win, I can see the Storm winning by 30 because the Sharks know... if the Raiders are to win, the Sharks would really need to put themselves. The thing is so difficult to read, to be honest with you, because especially right now with the Raiders playing the Roosters and the Titans playing the Warriors. The Titans play Warriors afterwards, but if the Raiders lose to the Roosters, then the Sharks are looking decent. Like, it's so tough, but I'm taking this. I'm taking a Storm by 8. I'm taking a Storm by 8. I don't know how to. Shush. All right, let's move into the next game. But before we do, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you are new around here. We are going to be streaming pretty much every single game this weekend, and I'm looking forward to it, baby. But Friday night, 8:05 p.m, Parramatta Eels taking on the Penrith Panthers. Parramatta Eels are 13-1 to win this game. 13-1. 13-1. Bloody value and a half. 13-1. Panthers are $1.03. The Panthers team that I saw on the weekend, my goodness me. Geez, $1.03 for that team on the weekend against the, who was it? Was it the Dogs? No, it wasn't the Dogs. It was the Tigers. My God. But anyway, the Panthers here on 42 points. Storm on 42 points. Obviously, the Panthers are in second place because their 4 games is 356, while the Storm is on 487. The Panthers, all they need to do is win to go above the Storm, and the Storm to lose. But the Storm of a Sharks game will have already been played. So if the Sharks are to win that game, the Panthers know all they need to do is win. If the Storm were to, say, lose their game by about 20 points, oh no, it wouldn't really matter. The Storm would have to lose by no, it doesn't matter. I'm all over the shop. Forget me, right? The Panthers, I'm thinking about Panthers Rabbitohs actually, sorry. If the Panthers are to lose their game by about 20 points to the Eels, the Rabbitohs would then have a chance, if they won, to actually win by about 20 points over the Dragons, which will obviously happen. But if the Rabbitohs were to win by a significant margin, they would potentially be able to jump them. Actually, if the Panthers just lose by about 1 point or 2 points, and just lose, the Rabbitohs still have the ability to put a score on the Dragons here and score about 40 and go above the Panthers into second position. It doesn't really matter, however, simply because obviously the home game will probably be at Suncorp and because of the pandemic situation, but that's the situation there for the Panthers. We obviously move down to the Parramatta Eels, who are playing for a top 4 spot right now. They're on 32 points, Roosters 32 points, and Manly on 32 points. 224 points differential for Manly, Eels 143, and Roosters 117. Basically, Eels need to win and hope Manly lose. If Eels win, then no matter what, they'll finish in 5th position this weekend. If no matter what, even if the Roosters win, unless they win by about 100. But Manly, if they won, they would just go above them anyway. If Manly and Eels are to lose the place, it would be like this, and the Roosters have a chance to go into the top 4, obviously. So that's that situation there. We move into the team lineups here for the Eels-Panthers game. We move into the Eels. Junior Paulo will miss the game after he was hit with a 1-game suspension for a shoulder charge, and Clint Gutherson is being rested with Hayes Perham taking over at fullback in his first game for the club. Now I know why they're 13-1. Back rowers Marata Niokore is out after suffering a head knock against the Storm, while prop Isaiah Papali'i and lock Nathan Brown are being rested ahead of the finals. Well, obviously this team does not think they're going to be making the top 4. Oregon Kafusi, Makahesi Makatoa, Bryce Cartwright, Keegan Hipgrave, and Ray Stone all come into the starting pack. Samuel Lozoy and Kai Rodwell, debutants, and second gamer Sean Russell are the new face on the bench alongside Sean Lane, who suffered a head knock last weekend but is still on the bench. Will Smith and Jake Arthur are the halves, with Dylan Brown and Mitchell Moses being rested. Top Opacek returns and will partner Michael Oldfield in the centre. It's Michael Oldfield, my God. That is why they're 13-1. They have rested a ginormous amount of players there, really quality players there, have the Eels. So Panthers, my God. Ivan Galleria has named a full-strength side for the showdown with their Western Sydney rivals. Spencer Leniu has been listed amongst the reserves. Cleary should Cleary decide to rest one of his forwards, minor premiership could still be on. Yeah, we've already talked about that. But Panthers, wow. They've started just a straight up full-strength side here. I guess they've been injured for a significant part of the season, so they may as well get some chemistry more so going, especially after they didn't look fantastic last week, guys. They did not look fantastic. I streamed this game and I was not happy with them. They won 30-16 over the Tigers. They had a chance. They were up by 24 or something like that with about 20 minutes to go and just decided to just give it up and play really lazy football. They won 30-16, but against the Tigers, it was really, really lazy for me. And they made a lot of mistakes in that game. A lot of mistakes. So if the Eels had played a full-strength squad, I think it would have been a pretty good game. But yeah, look, it's disappointing that the Eels have obviously rested pretty much everybody. Eels obviously coming in after winning that game 22-10, but it's not the same team. So I don't really care about reading off previous results from the Eels because it's not really the same team at all. But the Panthers, you go back a couple of weeks ago, they beat the Rabbitohs 25-12, which was a very significant result. But yeah, do not look at last week's result and tell me that it was a good result against the Tigers, because they did not look good in that game at all. Very lazy, actually. But I'm taking the Panthers 13+ here. Looking at that team for the Eels, they obviously don't care about this game. They don't care about where they position. They don't care about making the top 4, and arguably are throwing it so they don't have to play the Storm in the first week. But I think that would have been probably better for them, because that would have been able to see if they could really carry that form into the finals against a team that they've beaten twice this year. So I'm going to take the Panthers. I'm actually going to take them by I'll take them by about 20 here. I'll take the Panthers by dead set about 20 here, to be honest with you. But let's move into the chat right now. Let's move into the chat. James Moses, I'm going to assume that Penrith will end up resting Luai, Cleary and Kosau. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if obviously we see quite a few players get taken out here for the Panthers, especially, the likes of, well, it depends. If the Storm win against the Sharks, which you would assume, the Panthers will just take everybody out. You know what I'm saying? Whether they won't take them or... There'll be major changes. There'll be it'll happen. Just wait. You know what I mean? Like, this is what the Panthers have put out there. Just know that, especially if the Storm win, they'll just take a heap out. If the Storm lose, the Panthers probably do play quite a bit of a strong team here. Isaac says Panthers actually have to do the opposite of resting. Most of the Panthers players have already had many rests in the team. Well, that's what I'm saying. So the Panthers have had quite a lot of injuries this season. So now it's just about getting them all together. But I do think that it comes down to that Storm result, whether they play a full-strength team or not. But I still think the Panthers win by a significant amount regardless, just to ensure they get that second spot, even though it doesn't really mean a great deal. Blake Harless says 26-14 to the Panthers. NRL Footy Update says Panthers will be back on top. Well, you need to hope the Storm lose their game then. Blowblock says Panthers should rest Cleary because he's already good. He would be better. Well, he's been injured for quite some time, man. He's only been back for a couple of weeks. It's no point resting him when he's already had like about 100 years rest this season. You know what I'm saying? But I think that's pretty much it for that Eels-Panthers game, because it's not a great deal going on there, to be completely honest with you. It's not the most exciting of games, considering how many players are out for the Parramatta Eels. But let's move into the next game, which is the Broncos versus Knights, which pretty much has nothing to do with anything this game, unfortunately. There is literally nothing to do with anything. Before we do get into it, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you're new around here, guys. We're on our way to 12,500, I believe it is. So definitely hit that subscribe button. But Broncos versus Knights. Broncos sit in 15th position. Knights sit in 7th. $2.50 for the Broncos. Knights $1.54. The Broncos, they can jump into 14th with a win and the Cowboys lost to Manly, which you would obviously safely assume there. So the Broncos would just need to win this game by legitimately 2 points, 1 point, I don't care, to go above the Cowboys here, because they're on 262 minus and Cowboys are on minus 260. The Broncos can't drop obviously below because the Bulldogs are just absolute dribblers. You move into the Knights, obviously they're locked up in 7th position. They can't move, they can't go down, they can't go up, just whatever. Broncos, Thomas Flegler took an early guilty plea on a careless high tackle for being an absolute moron and will miss 4 matches. He's an idiot. His place is taken by Ethan Bullimore. Arguably lost the Broncos that game last week. Jordan Ricky is ready to go. He was a late withdrawal last week, but he's ready to go this week. And TC Rabati will revert to the bench. Bench forward Brendan Piakura was hit with a 2-match ban for dangerous contact, and his place is taken by Reece Kennedy, Corey Pakes, and David Meader, the new face on the interchange. David Clemmer will return from suspension in the front row, and Jacob Saifiti will get a break. Jaden Brayley and back row Mitch Barnett are also being rested, and their places are taken by Chris Randall and Brodie Jones. Heimel Hunt also being rested. His place in the wing is taken by Starford Toa and Phoenix Crossland and Jack Johnson, the new face on the bench. Well, there you go. So that's the 2 teams there. Look, I don't care about this game. I don't think anyone cares about this game. Callum Pong is still playing. Mitchell Pearce is still playing, which is interesting, but they've had quite a bit of injuries this year too. I'll take the 9. Oh, shit, man. I really don't know. I'll take the Knights here 1-12. I don't think they're going to win by a lot. I think they've been... I don't think they've been overly impressive lately. Obviously, they come off that win against the Titans 15-14, but both teams just weren't great in that game, to be completely honest with you, especially the Knights. The Knights were actually probably the worst team in that game, and yet still beat the Titans, which tells you a lot about the Titans. But that was a tough one for me, obviously, being a Gold Coast Titans fan, but the Knights weren't great. The Titans should have won that game, but just didn't, because on their own merit, the Titans didn't win that game by making quite a few mistakes, just not following up. Anyway, we're not going to get into that game. But, the Knights, I don't really know how they're in 7th position, but then again, I don't know how anyone's in the top 8 who's not in the top 4, really. or arguably the top 3. So let's go see here. 22-16 against the Dogs. Not a fantastic result there for the Knights. Move back in further. 14-16. 16-14 win against the Sharks. Yeah, whatever. They weren't great in that game either, but they still got it. 28-20 over the Broncos. Interesting little game, that one. And 34-24 over the Rays, which was a good performance, that Rays game. That Rays game was a good performance. So the Knights have come home strong in the end of the season, but in the same sense, there's a lot to pick out with their team. So, look, I'm going to take the Knights by 1-12 here, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Broncos win. This is literally a nothing game, and we're going to move on. I'll say Knights by whatever. I'll take Knights by 6. Dasmate says, wouldn't surprise me if the Broncos win this game. Neither would it for me. Jimmy Bill says, Jack, hope you haven't said that too many times this year. You'd be wrong. What do you say? I have no idea. Peter Farger says, we'll talk about that after. Snag says, Big Papa Napa deserves a Melly contract. Yeah, no one cares. Blowblock says, Thomas Flegler was an idiot last week. Yes, he absolutely was if you're a Broncos fan. Yeah, absolutely was. G. Ramsell says, Broncos don't think they will win, but go the Broncos. It doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. Like, literally, let's move on. There's no point even answering questions or talking in the chat about this one, because it means nothing, this game, unfortunately. The next game that we will move on to is the Cowboys versus Eagles game. Let's go and hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you are new around here. But the North Queensland Cowboys are in 14th position, actually, you know what? No, I'm not going to change my tip for the last game, just because I realised that the Broncos are still technically playing for something, but they're not really. Cowboys are a 14th position with the Manly Sea Eagles in 4th position. The Cowboys not playing for anything besides not going below the Broncos, I guess. Actually, they could still go below the Broncos with the Broncos and Cowboys losing their games, respectively. But Manly are in top 4 right now. And all they would need to do is win this game. Let's talk about the Cowboys first here. The Cowboys, actually, no, they're on 16 points. The Broncos are on 14 points. I thought they were on the same points. They're not. Right, so the Cowboys would need to lose. The Broncos would need to win to go above. So don't worry about that. The Cowboys are minus 260. Broncos minus 262. If the Cowboys are to win this game, no, they would need the Tigers to get absolutely pumped, and they would need to pump the Manly Seagulls, which is just absolutely not happening. So the Cowboys pretty much are going to sit in 14th position unless the Broncos can beat those Knights. Manly, on the other hand, they're in 4th position right now, obviously with the 32 of the Seagulls, Eels, and Roosters. They've got 224 points differential, so basically if they win, they're in no matter what. If they lose, then the Eels or Roosters, whoever wins that, will go above. If the Eels win, then they go above them. If the Roosters win, the Eels lose as well, then the Roosters will go above them. No matter what here, the Roosters will, Manly can still finish in 6th, but the Manly aren't going to lose this. Manly Seagulls aren't going to lose this game. Let's go through the team lineups here. We go to the Cowboys. Ruben Cotter has been sidelined for a shoulder complaint, with Cohen Hess making a return. Jason Tamalolo swapping the number 8 jumper for the number 13, so he goes into the lock position. Yeah, wow, Todd Payton. Yeah, you've been using him well this year, haven't you? Lachlan Burr also returns, but only as far as the extended bench. For Manly, Des Hasler has only made one change. Middle forwards Sean Kepi and Taniela Paseka will return on the interchange, relegating Toa Sipoli and Curtis Siren into the extended bench, while Josh Aloye gets another start at the prop after a strong performance against the Doggies. So that's it. Look, not even going to sit here long either, to be honest with you. I'm taking Manly here. I'm taking Manly 13 plus. I'm taking Manly 40 plus. I'm actually going to say Manly by 46 to be completely honest. You know what? I'll go Manly by. I'll go 46. I'll go Manly by 46 points. I think they'll be too good here. They've got Tom Trbojevic playing, Kieran Foran playing, Cherry Evans playing. Literally a starting squad here. Like Ola Kawatu's been great this year. Josh Schuster, Jake Trbojevic, Martin DePau. Obviously I'm not big a fan of Lachlan Croker, but I think that's really the only thing holding them back from the premiership right now. And no offense to Lachlan, but I just don't think he's the guy that they kind of need. I think he's been doing his job, but still, you know what I'm saying? But I'm taking Manly here. I'm taking them by about 46 points. I wouldn't even be surprised if they're about 50, to be completely honest with you. James Moses says, Tom and DCE for me will probably be rested. Yeah, obviously that could be a factor here, but you never know. Tom Trbojevic has had quite a bit of time off in recent weeks. Well, he's been back for a couple of weeks now, but in the same sense, I truly believe that Manly are going to want to just romp through to the finals here. I wouldn't be surprised if they play a pretty strong lineup here. I know that you probably will see the likes of... It depends. It really does depend. Manly will only rest players here if that top 4 spot is needed to, because they will have had that Eels game and the Roosters game beforehand. So you've got to remember that. This depends completely, and that's why I said at the beginning of the stream, guys, this will depend completely, this game, in regards to who Manly plays, on the Roosters-Raiders result and the Eels versus Panthers result. If the Roosters are to lose to the Raiders and the Eels are to lose to the Panthers, as predicted, Roosters obviously are predicted to win, but if both of those guys lose, Manly couldn't lose this game and still make the top 4. You know what I'm saying? So this result will rely on that result. So yeah, look, it's it's not easy to do predictions here on Tuesday at the final round for this very reason. But yeah, look, that'll be interesting to see who they do end up actually playing there. Wizzy Clan says, yeah, we need a better hooker. Miguel Dominguez says, what is Manly's biggest struggles going into the next round? Manly's biggest struggles? Look, in regards to the last game that they played, obviously they won 36-18 over the Dogs, but they were very similar performance to Panthers, but last round was all the favourites didn't look exactly fantastic, to be completely honest with you. Obviously, there were so many teams actually good that obviously nearly lost or just gave up a lot of points. Storm lost 22-10 to the Eels, who had been on a horrific run, the Eels. Manly obviously won 36-18 over the Dogs, still got 18 points to the Dogs. Panthers only won 36-16 over the Tigers. Rabbitohs obviously annihilated the Roosters 54-12. But yeah, look, Manly, to be honest with you, just need to. I don't know. I felt like they came into that game quite complacent against the Dogs. They beat them 66-0 earlier in the season and just absolutely walloped them and wiped the floor with them. And I feel like they came in a bit complacent. So as long as they don't come in complacent with this one, assuming if the Eels or the Roosters do win, they will win this game very, very significantly, in my personal opinion. And there we definitely could be seeing a nice little fetty bomb. Oh, fetty bomb. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. We might be seeing a nice little fetty bomb there for the Cowboys and Manly game. But let's move into the next game, which is the South Sydney Rabbitohs versus the St. George Illawarra Dragons. Now, guys, go and hit that thumbs up button, and obviously subscribe if you're new here. I want you to go hit that thumbs up button immediately, right now. And if you don't subscribe, I tell you right now, you're going to be kicked out of the house tomorrow. Even if you own it, you're still getting kicked out. I don't care by who, by me, right? It's your house, but you're getting kicked out. But the South Sydney Rabbitohs, they're in third position. The St. George Illawarra Dragons are in 12th position. This is Saturday at 7:35 p.m. Not a great deal to play for here for either of these teams, to be honest with you. And I can see with the Rabbitohs having $1.74 to the Dragons $2.10, the Rabbitohs probably have rested a lot of players here on the Sunshine Coast. Rabbitohs, they're on 40 points right now. Panthers are on 42 points and Storm are on 42 points. The Rabbitohs would need to win by about 180 to beat the Storm. And obviously the Storm would need to lose to the Sharkies. The Panthers also would need to lose. And then the Rabbitohs have a chance of actually going into second. But like I said, it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you, because they're going to be a home game at Suncorp or whatever, both these Sydney teams. For the Dragons, on the other hand, obviously if they win, they will go potentially above the Warriors, provided the Warriors lose to the Titans. If they lose, they could go below the Tigers, because the Tigers obviously play the Doggies. If the Dragons lose by enough, the Tigers could still lose, maybe, depending on the scoreline. Doesn't matter, guys. This is another game that doesn't really make a great deal of care factor, as you can see, and you'll see why the situation here. Wowee. So Rabbitohs here. Blake Ta'afe has been confirmed as a replacement fullback for Latrell Mitchell, who will not play for the rest of this season. Adam Reynolds, Dane Gagai, and Damien Cook have been rested, while Alex Johnson, Cody Walker, Cameron Murray, and Jai Arrow have been named on the extended bench and will also likely be putting their feet up. They're not going to be playing, mate. Adam Reynolds, Dane Gagai, and Damien Cook, Alex Johnson, Cody Walker, and Cameron Murray, and Jai Arrow will not be playing. That's a lot of players out. Debutant Lachlan Ilias will step in for Reynolds at halfback. Maybe we'll see who's going to be playing there next year, unless they obviously do go with Milford very, very consistently. Benji Marshall will be on the team, with Tano Milne taking Johnson's place in the wing, with Braden Burns getting a start in the centres. Peter Mamouzelis will make his second start in place of Cook, with Patrick Margot taking over at Brook for Marky Nichols, the man who scored 2 tries last week, who slides back to lock and takes over the captaincy, with Jacob Hose getting a start in the second row with Iro on the reserves, but Iro won't play. Interchange, Liam Knight will miss the game and Bunning's first final after he accepted a 2-game ban for dangerous contact, whilst Thomas Burgess has also been rested. The all-new interchange bench consists of Dean Hawkins, Tatao Moga, Jed Cartwright, and 1-game rookie Davi Moal. Wowee, that Rabbitohs team is just wow. Dragons team, on the other hand, haven't really changed a great deal after they lost to the Cowboys last week. Jared Beale has been promoted from the extended bench to take over for Zach Lomax, who will miss out in the centres, while Pawasa Farmasuli will step up to the interchange in a swap with Jackson Ford, who's been named in the reserves. Ben Hunt will not be coming back here, unfortunately. Has failed to make it back for the final game of the season. So, look, the Dragons don't change a great deal there. I liked Talmone. Didn't have a fantastic game last week, but in the same sense, I haven't minded him at the end of this Post-Season. Dragons just aren't good, lads. They're just not good. They could play this backup Rabbitohs team and still probably lose. Like, that's the craziest thing here. The Dragons they just lost 28-26 to the 38-26 to the Cowboys. You know what I'm saying? They got 38 points, and they were up 20-12 at the 50th minute mark, and were down, by about 14 points within the next 10 minutes. It was just absolutely crazy. The Cowboys putting on points there. So, look, I'm going to take. Oh, jeez, I'll take the. The Rabbitohs are playing. You know what? I'm going to take the. I'll take the Dragons here, man. They're playing basically full strength lineup here, minus Ben Hunt. They have to win this game, surely. Surely, man. You can't be giving. Besides Zach Lomax, this is pretty much a straight up lineup here for the Dragons. Whilst the Rabbitohs have literally got a C grade team, a reserve grade team in here, full of guys who are younger than 14 years old. It's just a madness here what the Rabbitohs have done there. So I'm taking I'll take the Dragons. Dragons there. Out of respect for themselves. Out of dead set respect for themselves. But let's move over to the chat here. Amazing Races, does Mitchell being out ruin South's premiership credentials? Rabbitohs still look pretty good towards the end of that game, and they obviously still scored a couple of tries against the Roosters, the Chooksters, when Mitchell was off. Obviously, it does damage it, but I don't think they're going to win it now. No, I don't think they can make the grand final. No, personally. But then again, they've still got a pretty good attack and lineup, man. So it wouldn't greatly surprise me. It wouldn't significantly surprise me if they were to still obviously be up there. Tony says thoughts on how the Rabbitohs. Yeah, I've already answered that one. Dasmate says South 20-16. Gigcash says South 22-8. Dasmate says I can't trust the Dragons. No one can, man. The only reason I'm tipping them is because they're such a menace to themselves that surely they can't be this much of a menace to themselves and lose a game to a bunch of backups when they're basically playing a pretty strong Dragons team minus Zach Lomax. Keon Moshtagi says, what do you think about Latrell Mitchell? No, we're not going to get into that. We spoke about that well and truly enough on the weekend. Snag says, who's going to take the fullback position? AJ? No, the fullback position this week is Blake Ta'afe, which could be a sign they're going to go with him obviously next week in the finals against the Panthers. You would assume, well, maybe Panthers or maybe Storm, but it's a sign that they're probably maybe linking up with Blake Ta'afe there and then having Alex Johnston on the wing with Cody Walker in the 6 and Reynolds in the 7. I would assume they'll try and keep it as close to they possibly can to what they would go into the finals there with that fullback position. I don't think they'll play Cody Walker back there, and I don't think Johnston should come off the wing there. I think that you'd probably bring in Ta'afe there and give him a run this week so he can get ready for next week, obviously, when they have the big finals game there. Jack says, I can't take the Rabbitohs with a team that bad and inexperienced. Well, you can't say it's that bad. You haven't seen this team play. Yeah, they're backups, but, Adam Reynolds used to be backup. The likes of a lot of players have been backups in their day and then come through. So, yeah, look, don't just look at this team and think, okay, well, they're shit now. No, I'm just saying they're putting out a very inexperienced team here, which is not meaning they're bad. It just means they just don't have the miles on them in regards to what you probably want to be backing them in consistently. So I can agree with you on that regards. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean these guys are bad, man. It doesn't necessarily mean these guys are bad. But I think that's going to pretty much do it for that one. I think it's going to pretty much do it for that one. Let's move into the biggest game here, for me anyway, the Gold Coast Titans versus the New Zealand Warriors. But before we do, hit that thumbs up button and obviously subscribe if you are new around here. But the Gold Coast Titans versus the New Zealand Warriors game, this game literally just comes down to what happens with the Shark Storm game and what happens with the the Roosters and the Raiders game. I've obviously tipped the Roosters to win, and I have obviously tipped the Sharks to win, the Storm to win, so that would mean that the Titans do have that chance of making the 8 as long, depending on the points differential. So let's assume I said Storm by 8. The Sharks are currently on minus 24. They would go down to minus 32. The Titans would then need to win by about 16 over the Warriors here, which might be a little bit of a tough ask, to be completely honest with you. But I'm going to predict it here anyway. So do take this prediction into account, because I am a Titans fan, and I'm going to tell you the Titans are going to make the 8 just because I'm going to do that. I do believe the Storm will beat the Sharks, and I do believe the Roosters will beat the Raiders. However, I'm going to give the for and against needed for the Titans here to get into the 8, just because I don't really give a shit. You don't like it, make your own channel. You know what I'm saying? But let me tell you why I'll give you that prediction anyway. But yeah, the Titans obviously with a good chance there, based on my predictions, to make the 8. Whilst the Warriors can't go above the Titans, they will stay in 11th. If they lose and the Dragons and Tigers both win, they could drop down to 13th position. Dragons, they don't have a bad chance against Rabbitohs, like we just said, and the Tigers play the Dogs, which is just, oh my God, I don't care about that game. So this is all to play for here for the Titans, but in the same sense, if one of those two teams above them wins, then they cannot make the 8 this year. We move into the team lineups. Kevin Proctor for the Titans, who has been battling an AC joint sprain, has been named, but Ash Taylor will miss out despite the club announcing he had responded well to a bilateral hip cortisone injections and was a chance of selection. Tyrone Peachey has again been picked to wear the number 6. David Fafita is also named on the interchange, even though the Titans will be chasing a huge win. Well, it's not a huge win to boost their points differential. Who made a point this? It's not a huge win depending on the Storm game. And also, 23 points isn't a huge win in today's game anyway. But in the only change to last week's 17, Mo Fodawaker, who just obviously re-signed with the club today until 2024, has been promoted from the bench to start at prop, with Tina Fa'asuamaleaui sliding back to lock and Sammy McIntyre onto the bench there. So just to confirm that back line there, because I know there's a few differences to what people will normally see. Jaden Campbell's obviously in the fullback with Philip Sammy and Corey Thompson in the wings. Brian Kelly, Patrick Herbert in the centres, with Tyrone Peachey and Jamal Fogarty in the halves there. And Mitch Rain is that number 9 there. The bench is Aaron Clark, David Feeder, Jamin Jolliffe and Sam McIntyre, and as long as David Feeder comes on before the 25th minute mark, I'm happy with that. If he comes on at the 34th minute or whatever he came on last week, I'm not happy with that. Warriors, Chad Townsend has been left out after picking up a shoulder injury against the Raiders. So I don't think that's that too bad, to be honest with you. I hope Chad's okay, but I haven't been rating him at all for the Warriors. And really at the Sharkies for a couple of years, to be completely honest with you. Sean O'Sullivan shifting to half and Channel Harris Tavita will return to the lineup at 5'8". Prop Matt Lodge has been named despite his day at the judiciary on Tuesday night. We will fight a dangerous contact charge, so tonight. Should he be unsuccessful, he will miss this game and round 1 next year. Jermaine Taunoa Brown will come onto the interchange in place of Bunty Afo, who picked up a hamstring injury at training on Tuesday, while last week's 18th man Jazz Tavanga stays on the extended bench. So yeah, guys, look, I'm going to take. This is the thing. The Warriors are our bogey team. This is the rough thing about it. I never wanted this game to come down to it. I looked at the draw at the start of the season, and I thought, well, shit, man. Finishing off this year, we expected the Titans to be around this area. Yeah, everyone did. Everyone's saying the Titans were overhyped. Is just full of shit, because you predicted them to be in this area. You said 7th through 10th, right? So how can they be overhyped when literally every single person was saying 7th through 10th? They can finish 8th. They can finish 10th. So I don't get this overhyped thing, because this is where literally everyone predicted them. I did not see anyone putting them in the top 6, and if you did, I don't know what you're talking about. I predicted them for 7th. They still can finish 8th, right, depending on these results. So it's not a great deal of a surprise here. The overhyped thing, I don't really get where that's from, because this is literally where everyone expected them to be. The Warriors are the bogey team. They usually do a job over the Titans. They did earlier this season, obviously. However, the Titans are obviously potentially playing something here. I think if the Sharks or Raiders win, the Titans will probably lose this game, so do keep this into account. I do think the Titans probably lose if the Raiders/Sharks win, because it's not that the Warriors are any good, guys. I don't think the Warriors are any good. I really am not scared of this team at all, truly, to be honest with you. However, and I think they're checked out completely, it wouldn't surprise me if they lose. But considering they're playing for something, if the Sharks and the Raiders are to lose, I will tip the Titans here, and I will tip the Titans by about 24 points. I think the Titans will put a score through them. I think they'll bring David Feeder on. I think they'll score quite a lot, to be completely honest with you. But yes, this all comes down to what the previous results do happen. So yeah, do remember, if the Sharks/Raiders are to win, I'm probably going to tip the Warriors. If the Sharks and Raiders both lose, then I take the Titans by about 24. G. Ransfield says, Ploy boys are going to rattle Proctor. He's going to punch on and get sent off. You're down at 12. Well, that's just the dumbest comment I've ever seen, to be honest with you. James Moses says, I think Titans will win, but they will miss the finals. Well, fair enough, man. That will obviously, that'll obviously come down to what the previous results were, to be honest with you. NRL Melbourne Storm fans, this could be the Don's last game. Well, look, to be honest with you, man, the Don will probably play this game if the Sharks/Raiders do win their game. game. I would assume that because it's the last game of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if the Don comes in for a last heyday, last bit of a get around. But if we are playing for something, there's no way. I love the Don. Obviously, I know Donny, but he's always willing to help out with the channel. But I just don't back him into to be coming into that team if we are playing for a final spot. If we aren't, I would safely assume that Don will probably come in there for a bit of a last kick around there for the Titanaronos. Ella says, should PG play for New South Wales? No. Max Watson says, the Sharks get flogged won't make it easier for the Titans anyway. If the Sharks get flogged, won't that make it easier for the Titans anyway? Yeah, of course. But in the same sense, I've tipped the Storm, so I'm going based off by 8. So I'm going based off what my predictions are. So yeah, they would need to win by, Titans would need to win by about 16 to go above the Sharkies in that situation. Dennis says, the Raiders and Shark stream will be a movie like watch. Yeah, fair enough to be honest with you, but in the same sense, I'm pretty content with my team now this year, lads. Like, obviously, I want to make the 8, of course. I'm pretty content with the Titans and where they are right now. I obviously wanted to make the top 8. I wanted to get there. Even if we lose the first week of finals, it's still experience. But I take that Knights game as a bit of experience for the lads to know that was like a finals game. Hopefully, they understand it as such and realise that when they go into the finals next year, they can use that game as an understanding of how it was. I know it's not technically the finals, but that Titans-Knights game is absolutely a final-like structure. And this Titans-Warriors game will be like a final-like structure if Sharks/Raiders both lose, which means that we could use this game as experience even if we are to lose. So a couple of games that you can take there for next season in regards to if the Titans are to lose or just don't have a chance either way. Salty Tower says, hey, hello mate. RC Boss says, yo Blaze, hello buddy. Josh Sampson, I hope the Titans make the top 8 since today my birthday. Good stuff, mate. Happy birthday for you. But that's going to do us for this. That's going to do us for this game. So I'm taking Titans by 24 if the results are in their favour and they can still make the top 8. But moving to the final game of the round and of the season. Now, this is the West Tigers versus the Canterbury Bulldogs. It's going to hit that thumbs up button, guys. And obviously subscribe if you are new around here. But absolutely, if you don't subscribe, I'm telling you right now, you are going to be kicked out of the house tomorrow. And I don't care if you own the house, you're getting evicted. But the Tigers here, they're in 13th position. The Bulldogs are in 16th position. Tigers are $1.45 favourites, while Bulldogs are $2.75. Like, no shit, Sherlock. Bulldogs dribblers, 6 points this year. Literally just 2 wins. 2 wins this year. How deplorable. With one bye, just wow. Their next worst team, 15th, is the Broncos with 6 wins. So they were 4 wins, 4 total wins behind the second worst team in the competition. The Tigers, on the other hand, the Bulldogs have a chance of not going up, but they also have a chance of just going down to 20th position in a 16-team league. The Tigers, on the other hand, if they are to win this game, their form against is woeful. They can't come up with the Titans, but they would be equal on points. However, they would have to rely on the Dragons and Warriors both losing to have a chance of going above those two teams into 11th position, but can also depending on how much they got. But I'm not going to even talk about Cowboys. Tigers won't finish anything lower than 13th position. Team lineups here for a game that just really doesn't matter. It's just nothing really. Alex Seafar for the Tigers has suffered a knee injury against the Panthers, and his season is over. Kelma Tuolangi will return to the side to take Seafar's place on the interchange with Tukey Simpkins, who was part of the 21-man squad last week, remaining on the extended bench. Bulldogs, Corey Waddell will return from suspension to lose the second to take the second row spot, vacated by Matt Dory, who suffered an unfortunate ACL in the loss to Manly. Big Papa Napa, big Papa Napa, big Papa Napa, big Papa Napa. He will be back, but he's only on the extended bench, where he's joined by Jake Averillo, who dropped out of last week's team due to a foot injury. So Napa is back, but just on the extended bench there. Brandon Wakeham will return to number 6 jumper, while Siona Katoa gets another start at dummy half. Chris Smith missed out on a place in the 21-man squad. So, shit, man. Like, how do I predict this game? Look, surely I have to go to the Tigers here. Like, surely I have to go Tigers. This game means nothing at all, ever. There's no Adam Dewey here for the Tigers, obviously, with that injury. They scored at least 18 points against the Panthers. Surely the Tigers win this game. Like, they're dribblers, but surely they're not Bulldogs dribblers. I'm going to take the Tigers here. I'm actually going to take it by 4 points. I reckon it'll be close, just for a bit of a shit kicker. I'm not streaming this game because I'll be doing the Wallabies versus All Blacks stream on this channel, so get excited for that one because that'll be a good game over there in Perth. I will not be watching the game here in Redcliffe. I can promise you that right now. But we will be doing all the finals, obviously. But I'll take the Tigers here, and I'm going to take them by about 4 points. But wowee, I feel like anyone who watches this game might actually have dribble coming down the side of their mouth. Kalen Ponga fans says Tom Twoyevich is back. Okay. Jax says Big Papa Napa 100-0. Fair enough. Dasmate says we're going to send Napa out with a win. We are being relegated. You are being relegated. The Bulldogs have officially, this is news on a BKRsport channel here, guys. The NRL has made a special circumstance for the Bulldogs, and they will be relegated to the Nether Realm, mate. They'll be relegated to, unfortunately, the under-16 competition, where they might find a bit more competition for themselves, to be completely honest with you. Zenpai says, oh wow, rip Dogs. I know it is unfortunate to see the Dogs get unfortunately relegated, but, you know, it has been coming for quite some time. Jack says, I hope it's a 0-0 draw. Both these teams don't deserve to win. Look, the Tigers, they kind of showed a bit of fight against the Panthers, but the Panthers looked woeful. The Panthers looked absolutely woeful against them. Look, they scored a couple of really nice tries. I really love what Nathan Cleary's doing, by the way, with his kicking game. My God, he knows how to kick that, hit that sideline, the post. He has aimed for that both times, hit both posts, which is fantastic to see. However, the Tigers still got beaten pretty well in that game, to be completely honest with you. Tasman says we're going to the Super League. No, Super League's too easy for the Bulldogs, mate. They'll be joining Arsenal in the under-16 competition. Carl Bergen says bringing the Bears back for the Doggies. Well, let's bring in Fiji, Papua New Guinea. How about we do that? Let's bring in a couple. You know what? Let's bring in the Uruguayan under-14s team. They might be able to put up a bit more of a show, to be honest with you. But guys, that's going to do us for today's video. So we have gone through all those games there. The way we have tipped, not by points, but we have gone Roosters, the Storm, the Panthers, the Knights. Wouldn't be surprised if Broncos win. The Sea Eagles, the Dragons, just based on the fact that surely they beat a team like the Rabbitohs, who have literally none of their starters really in. I've taken the Titans, and obviously I've taken the Tigres. But that will do us for today. Obviously, hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new around here. The games that we are going to be streaming this weekend is literally every single one of these, except for the Tigers versus Bulldogs, where I will be streaming the Wallabies versus All Blacks game. Do not forget, tomorrow about 10 a.m. I will be chucking up a community post with all the games I'll be streaming this week. The Rugby Done Under podcast will come out tomorrow at 5 p.m. on Spotify, Apple Music, and the likes. So go and give us a follow there on Spotify, Apple Music, or whatever you listen to your podcasts on. Rugby Down Under podcast. The link is in the description. Go and check it out. We talk all things rugby around the world. But I think that's pretty much it, guys. I think that's pretty much it. I appreciate you, and thank you very much for tuning in. We had 196 votes. Which team makes the top 8? The Titans and Raiders. Well, Raiders are on 38%, the Titans on 37%, and the Sharks on 25%. So very, very close one there, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very close one there. But alrighty, guys, I'm jumping off, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Alrighty, guys, thanks for watching. Catch you later.